Hello, everyone. Janice here. Hope you're all well and you're having a great day or evening. So, today I want to do another flower bloom, but I'm changing things up a little bit. So, the last time I did a bloom, the resin I was using for that bloom, I had to take up to 37 degrees Celsius. Now, this is a new resin that I'm using, and I think it's a resin that I'm going to stick to now. I really like it, I like the consistency of it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use time instead of temperature. So I'm hoping that this will give me a good bloom. I'm going to let my resin stand for 20 minutes. So I've mixed my resin. It's a 1-to-1 resin. I've mixed 60 grams. So I know that I always stress this just because there may be a new person that wants to do a bloom for the first time, and they need to know that you have to let your resin stand and warm up. So I'm going to do this for 20 minutes. And the reason that you do this is because your mold is cool. It's not cold, but I mean it's going to be a lower temperature than your warm resin. So when you pour your resin into your mold, it contracts. And that's what pulls your blooms in. And it's what spreads everything. And it pulls it towards the center. So my resin has now been standing for 18 minutes. So I'm going to now mix my white pigment that is going to form the petals. So I've just poured that into a separate little container, and I'm adding not a lot. It's just really the tip of the stick. And I'm using a white, ocean white pigment paste. And then what I also did, I had some pearlescent white mica powder. I've just decided to try, and I'm going to add a little bit of that into my mixture and just see if it'll give my petals a little bit of a shimmer. I don't know if it'll work, but I want to try it anyway. And then mix it really well. And it's not a solid white. It's slightly opaque as well. I don't want this white to be too heavy that it all sinks. So once that's mixed nicely, I'm going to put that into a piping bag, and it'll be ready for the next step. Right, so we're on 20 minutes now, and I'm going to pour my resin into the mold. And because it's been standing for those 20 minutes, it's degassed nicely. So there's very few bubbles in this resin. But I do find that sometimes there is some bubbles that kind of adhere to the side of the mold. So I'm just taking, these are kind of, it's a long toothpick, and the one end is flat. So I'm using the flat end, and I'm just going around the edge of the mold just to loosen those bubbles up if there are any clinging there. So I'm using a yellow alcohol ink into the resin here, and I'm going to be using pink as well. And because the resin is slightly warm, you'll see how nicely the ink spreads. So every resin is different. I mean, you may have to adjust your resin a little bit. I always suggest using smaller molds until you've kind of learned what is a good time for your resin. So it may be 15 minutes, it may be 25 minutes. So just practice a little bit with your resin, and you will see which is working for you. And then I'm just going to add a little bit more yellow on top of the pink. And then what I did was I took a toothpick and also used the back edge. You don't want to scratch your mold, so don't use anything that's pointy or going to mark your mold, because you will see that mark once you demold. And then I just swirled it together. And I'm hoping it'll give it quite a nice effect. And then I'm going to take my piping bag and I'm going to still do the circular layout on the coaster. I'm just kind of wiggling it around because I don't want flat edges on my petals. So I'm hoping this will give kind of just more of a realistic look to the petals. And then I'm pulling from the outside towards the center. And a lot of my blooms, this is where I kind of stop. But I want a smaller petal now. So I'm actually dividing it all over all again. And I'm hoping I'm going to get like a smaller petal, and the end result will be a little bit more sort of compact. And then I've just done a swirl in the middle. Now that is after 5 minutes. It's starting to pull in, and this is after 10 or 12 minutes. You can see how it's starting to pull towards the center and forming petals. And then I covered and I left it overnight. And then I did a purple background. I mixed a little bit of black into the purple just to give it so it would be a little bit darker. And I was quite happy with the result. So what I've done is I've taken some pictures outside as well because the colors are just so different in natural light compared to under the studio lights. And I did find that there was a little bit of shimmer in the petals that you can see better in the other pictures from that pearlescent mica powder. So I hope it's helped. I hope you've enjoyed this. And yeah, just follow these few little steps and you will have success. Thanks so much for watching.